environment. Let's get right into the story. We have Mr. Ken Cornell on the phone with us. He was a witness, he says, to the incident. Mr. Cornell, do we have you?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell us what happened and what you saw?
I was getting out of my car coming from lunch, and a guy came pulling up, stopped his car, and said, "Will you please call 911?" I was kind of a weird question. I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Please call 911. I just shot George Zimmerman." I'm like, "Don't you have a phone?" He's like, "I do not have a phone. I have a gun. I shot George Zimmerman. Everything's fine, but I shot George Zimmerman. Please call 911.
Did he tell you anything about the reason for taking a shot at George Zimmerman? Did he explain why he shot at him?
I'm pretty certain he said he saw a gun.
He said he saw a gun. He said he saw a gun that Mr. Zimmerman had?
Yes.
So did he say that he was afraid of being shot at first, and so he took a shot?
He did not say that. He just said he saw a gun. I don't know if he said he aimed it at him or he waved it at him. He said one of those two, but I'm not sure which one. I don't quite remember, but he said he saw the gun and he shot.
Ken, stand by. We want to bring in Lyle Mazin. He's a legal analyst. He's been following the George Zimmerman, Mr. Zimmerman, his life since going back to the incident with Trayvon Martin. Mr. Mazin, are you there?
I'm here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us, sir. So we're just learning the details, I'm sure, just as you are learning them. What do you make of all this?
What I make of this is, first and foremost, is that someone used to put George Zimmerman and put him in a corner so he stops having interactions with police officers and several civilians that seem to keep arising from anger or fights or road rage. That's first and foremost.
When you hear... go ahead, sir.
No, go ahead. I was going to say, but the irony of the situation is, based on what the gentleman on the phone just said to you, is it might be possible that stand your ground might come into play in this case in defense of shooting at George Zimmerman.
How do you mean? Can you explain that?
If Matt Epperson claims that he saw George Zimmerman pull a gun on him, he might very well be able to invoke the stand your ground statute and say that he was standing his ground and defending himself because he was in fear of his life.
Wow. And in all of your following George Zimmerman, have you ever encountered Matt Epperson before? Because the witness that we just spoke with said that that Matt said that this wasn't the first incident.
I did hear him articulate that, but I am not familiar with Matt Epperson, but I am not the end-all and be-all, so I do not know whether or not that is true or not true.
And so if in fact what Mr. Epperson is claiming, according to our witness that we've been talking to, Ken Cornell, that he perhaps witnessed Mr. Zimmerman with a gun, you're saying that under Florida Stand Your Ground statute, he may be able to claim that he was protecting himself?
Absolutely. And think about it in these terms. George Zimmerman is a known character to anyone. If whoever Matt Epperson is, we can safely assume that he knows George Zimmerman from the Trayvon Martin case. We can also safely assume, since George Zimmerman can't seem to keep himself out of the spotlight, that Matt Epperson would know that George Zimmerman also had an altercation with his wife, where he threw a wine bottle, had an altercation with his girlfriend. And I apologize, but he allegedly pulled a gun on his wife. He allegedly threw a wine bottle at his girlfriend. So George Zimmerman is known to Matt Epperson, potentially, it could be argued, that he is a danger. So if George Zimmerman was going to pull a gun on somebody, it would be reasonable that that person would reach for their own gun and defend themselves.
Lyle, you've been tracking Mr. Zimmerman for some time now. Are you surprised that Mr. Zimmerman continues to be involved in the incidents that you just stated there, that he continues to be involved in incidences with regards to weapons?
Absolutely. I mean, I got to tell you, I'm at a loss. Whether you're a lawyer, you're a news anchor, you're a server at a restaurant, or you're a zookeeper, you don't need to be familiar with the law at all. You just need to use common sense to make the determination that George Zimmerman needs to stop interacting with the law. I mean, where there's smoke, there's fire. There's only so many times that you can say you were defending yourself, or so many times you could say someone's lying, or at some point that, something is obviously going on with the mind of George Zimmerman that he cannot keep himself out of confrontation. I mean, he just needs to calm down. And again, this isn't TMZ following him around like a celebrity where if he littered, TMZ is showing, look, George Zimmerman littered. Or if he gets a speeding ticket, look, George Zimmerman got a speeding ticket. This is him actually being pulled over by law enforcement, being investigated by law enforcement for people had to call 911 on him. And now again, This would be the second incident since he was acquitted on Trayvon Martin's case where a gun is involved. I don't know about you or the listeners and viewers that are out there, but I cannot recall the last time I've ever had a gun involved in my life, and apparently George Zimmerman has had 3 times within the last couple of years.
But, Lyle, let me ask you, let me just play devil's advocate for a moment. There was an article out of some time ago in a magazine where Mr. Zimmerman and his family essentially said that they sometimes feel as if they're targets because of the Trayvon Martin decision. And so if he is armed, isn't it perhaps because he's afraid for his life, because there may be people out there who want to do him harm?
I completely empathize with that, and that's an excellent point. The problem is, the counter to that is, it was his family and friends himself that he's been alleged to attack. At first, it was his wife he pulled the gun on, and again, it was his girlfriend he took a bottle at. So if those are the people that he's fearful of, I mean, he's got a big problem.
All right. Mr. Lyle Mazin, thank you so much for being with us, sir. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
We're going to take a quick break. We're going to be back in 90 seconds. Stay with us. This is CBSN. Always On.